Welcome to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. My 2 cents is going to be largely about LeBron James, and I will get there in a second. And a short preview for the episode today. It is a basketball episode, so I want to at least stick with that theme. And I'll give you the intro in a few minutes. It's actually an interview with Mark T. Armstrong, who created the No Backboard Basketball League. Yes, I said it, No Backboard Basketball League. I'll explain it all later, but it's a very interesting concept. And I think you guys will enjoy the episode. Let me get to my 2 cents, though, on LeBron. Do you guys think that the Lakers have given him and Clutch Sports, a.k.a. Rich Paul, the whole agency, too much power? Because it seems like he's made a bunch of decisions. He's had a bunch of input on the roster in the last 2 years, which included bringing Anthony Davis over and trading all the young guys away. Then you bring in Russell Westbrook and you trade more role players and young guys away. They don't re-sign Alex Caruso, and now you're stuck with the oldest roster in the league. I think I'm just annoyed a little bit with LeBron lately. I know there's not a lot happening now that football's over and it's kind of a lull. The NBA All-Star break just happened, so not much going on. Baseball's in a lockout, so there's, not that much to report on, so to speak. However, LeBron's been doing a lot of reporting and talking himself. I know he is at a point in his career where he pretty much can say whatever he wants. He is in the GOAT conversation, as much as it pains me to admit it. He's one of the all-time greats. And I don't want to slight the man for what he's doing this year. I mean, he's averaging 29, 8, and 6.5. So the dude's still at an elite level numbers wise, but it's not translating to wins. The Lakers are under 500 at the break. They've had a ton of injuries. Anthony Davis, as most of you probably well know, cannot stay healthy. He's constantly hurt, constantly limping on the floor, holding something, grimacing. I mean, he had a terrible ankle injury the other day, which looked awful. I'm shocked it's only a 6 to 8 week evaluation. We'll see. But man, LeBron's playing out of his mind still, which at 37 years old, I can't get on him too much for that. But what I can get on him for is all the noise he's making, all these little backhanded shots at Rob Pelinka, the GM, all these subtle comments, especially over the All-Star break. He was praising Oklahoma City Thunder GM Sam Presti for all the great things he's done. And by the way, yes, he drafted James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant, and Serge Ibaka. Yes, he has drafted those guys. But since letting Harden walk and watching KD leave, you bet on Russ, which clearly wasn't the right move. And since then, you've just been stockpiling draft picks. I'd rather have a GM, yes, that is piling draft picks that's going to hopefully turn into something later on, because as we all know, draft picks are a crapshoot. You really don't know what you're getting. A lot of times it's a miss. Every once in a while, you get a superstar out of those draft picks. But I don't know what's so great about what Oklahoma City's been doing. At least what you saw with Philadelphia with the process and what you saw with Boston when Danny Ainge was still running the things, they used those picks to move up and trade to get stars. And at least they have viable stars. Can you really say Oklahoma City? They're super young again. I know they're rebuilding, but for LeBron to go out on a limb, and it's basically to take a shot at, it was like an unsolicited comment or compliment for Sam Presti and kind of a shot at Rob Pelinka. And then it's reported that Clutch Sports and its whole crew is not happy with Rob Pelinka that they didn't pull the trigger at the deadline. For what? To trade the only person that Russ has been traded for before, because they had the same terrible contract, John Wall, who is sitting, healthy scratch sitting for the Rockets because they're trying to start the young guys' growth down there. So Clutch is not happy that they couldn't get John Wall in a trade or any other random piece. That's not going to fix your issues. The roster's flawed. It's old. They don't have any young assets. And so LeBron has revamped this entire roster. They've traded away all the assets they could have had. Taylor Norton Tucker, THT, kind of took a step back. You don't re-sign Caruso, so you're stuck with old dudes that are a lot of former Lakers that have come back. And now LeBron is talking about leaving again. And as soon as his son, if he gets drafted and goes to the NBA, LeBron's going to leave to go play with his kid, wherever that is. they use I've heard the term mercenary a lot, where you're just kind of just going from one place to the next. And that's kind of what the last 10 years of player empowerment has been. If I am unhappy, I'm going to cause a ruckus, and I'm either going to leave or I'm going to force the organization to do stuff for me. And it's happening way too often in the NBA now. As most of you would probably agree, there's no more rivalries anymore. It's kind of a buddy league. Everybody's friends except for a few people, which I respect guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo for. Chose to stay in Milwaukee, got his money, but also delivered a championship. Sometimes loyalty backfires, though, like Damian Lillard. He's kind of going down with the sinking ship in Portland. I don't know what they're doing there now. So they've traded away all their good players. They kind of reached a ceiling with their team. But back to LeBron, this is what happens. Yes, he did bring a championship to Los Angeles. Yes, he did, with Anthony Davis. Yes, they did. It was a bubble championship, but it's still a banner in the rafters at the crypto.com, aka Staples Arena. But what happens with LeBron is you win early, and then your organization is decimated for a few years after that because, like I mentioned, no assets, no young developing players, because it's win now mode, which I understand for a 37-year-old. But at what point, and this is a fair question open for debate that I love to hear feedback from you guys, hit me up on all my channels at Too Tall Sports Podcast. When is it time to stop catering toward LeBron? Do we need to see the decline in play? Do we need to really know that he's not staying long-term? Because it doesn't sound like he is. When are we going to stop catering to LeBron's requests? Maybe it's too soon because he's still playing at a very high level. I don't know. I'm just getting tired of all the nonsense with him and his camp. Just these subtle shots and underneath cryptic messages and all this BS. I'm just tired of listening to him talk about all these things. And what other players openly criticize their GM in the public eye or to the media like that and get away with it? And another thing, someone made this point on Twitter, I think. Kobe Bryant never got this much power with the Lakers. Never. And he was there for 20 years, and he never got this much power. And LeBron's got all the power in the world. Like I mentioned off the top, he deserves he's gotten to a mogul stage where he can say whatever he wants. But I'm just kind of tired of listening to it. I am a Laker fan, yes, but it's just hard to listen to. They're under 500. I think Rob Pelinka actually kind of made the right move by not doing anything. I know the Russell Westbrook experiment hasn't worked out. I had higher hopes for him, but he ain't changing at this point. And this is who LeBron wanted. So no move gets made without the blessing of the king. So anyway, it's up for debate. I'll leave it up to you guys. Hit me up on all my channels, but is it time for the Lakers or most GMs in the league to stop giving LeBron what he wants? Maybe it's premature, maybe it's not. But at 37, I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is. Maybe something for you guys to think about. But I'm just tired of listening to it, man. I'm tired of the criticism of the media to his own organization. I don't know. There's nothing we can do. We have no assets. So anyway, something for you to chew on in this week, but I'll let you get to the interview with Mark T. Armstrong, and we're talking no backboard basketball. What is up? Welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My interview today is with Mark T. Armstrong. He is the founder and creator of No Backboard Basketball League. Yes, I said it. No Backboard Basketball League. It is kind of an ode to old school basketball, but it's also a great training apparatus for shooting. The rim is smaller, the ball is different, the rules are different, but it's actually a really cool way of reshaping basketball in the modern era with an ode to old school basketball. So we talk all about this. He and I met on a LinkedIn networking group, and I was immediately interested in what he was doing. It's a really cool concept, and it kind of raises your eyebrows the first time you see it and hear it. So yes, no backboard basketball. So we're going to talk all about that. Mark actually also played at LMU, Loyola Marymount University, in the late 80s under Paul Westhead, and he played with one of the greatest players to come through there, who unfortunately passed away. If you remember, Hank Gathers, they did a 30 for 30 on him. Paul Westhead was the guru of the go. And so we talk about Mark's early years growing up in Riverside and also playing at LMU and then creating this no backboard basketball league. So really fun, cool episode, lots of great stories and insight on a different way to look at basketball. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this interview. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube page. I drop episodes every Thursday morning, 5 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube and on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We're there. Just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. If you haven't already, scroll down on those audio platforms, Apple and Spotify now. You can do it. If you're on Spotify, they have a 5-star rating available. Please go ahead and hit those 5 stars on both Apple, Spotify, YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. Hit the like, share, comment, anything you guys want to do to blow up my page. That'd be awesome. Check out the videos I post on Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well at Too Tall Sports Podcast if you're new. So just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. You'll find all my stuff and interact with me on social media. I really appreciate that. And enjoy my interview with Mark T. Armstrong. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is the founder of the No Backboard Basketball League. It's a newer concept that actually makes you a better basketball player, even though it's been around for a long time. I have the founder and creator of the league here with me today. He also played college basketball at Loyola Marymount University under the stewardship of Paul Westhead in that innovative offense during the late 80s. He's here to talk about the No Backboard Basketball League, and much more. He is Mark T. Armstrong. Thanks for being on the show, Mark.
Hey, Brett. Thank you for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this. We've had one reschedule, so I'm excited to be talking with you today. So
for sure, man.
Let's get into it. Man.
Let's do it. Mark and I met during one of our LinkedIn networking group meetings, and as soon as I heard No Backboard Basketball, of course, my ears perked up a little bit. So we're going to talk all about that. And by the way, you do fit pretty well on the Too Tall Sports Podcast, I think, right? How tall are you?
6'6". I'm holding on to 6'6" with a lot of stretching and staying limber.
Okay, all right. So you fit. I'm 6'7", so you're right there with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you play basketball? Or you're a baseball player?
Played in high school, but then I chose to go the baseball route just because I thought it'd be a better career opportunity. But I'm a hooper at heart, is what I tell people. So I'm a big basketball guy.
I think most athletes are. Of the majors, of the top 3. Yeah, I think most football players and most baseball players dabble with hoop at some level.
For sure. It's the flow of the game. I love seeing the ball move, and it just, I don't know, it catches my eye more than other sports. So
agreed.
Agreed. You have a new concept, which we'll get into, but I do want to get to kind of your background first before we talk about No Backboard Basketball. You're originally from the Riverside area, went to Ramona High School. So I kind of want to get your sense of coming up in that area as a basketball player, Inland Empire. What kind of player were you, and what do you remember about the early days?
What I like to say about Riverside, California, the IE, is it has a great legacy when it comes to sports. So even before I came up and was playing it, you had Olympians, you had future Hall of Famers in various sports. So I like to tell people, when I was playing, every night I was on the court against 2 to 3 D1 athletes. They may not have played basketball, but they were D1 athletes, and I put that in perspective from having recently coached out here in Gilbert, California, and just the difference of every night. We don't have 2 or 3 D1 athletes on the court. Right. So just how rich the talent pool is in Southern California, then the concentration there in Riverside, California, and several guys I grew up playing against went on to have great careers in college. So I like to say, in that era, pressure builds diamonds, if you would. It was more of just playing against that level of competition day in, day out at the parks, in competition in school, as opposed to the training that you see, the high level training and organized access you have today. So those are the differences. I just grew up against other great young athletes and talent, and I happen to be above average athlete and have the height, size, and the discipline and work ethic, which was common for our area. And that produced the player I became to become as a player, as opposed to a strategic laid out plan.
Sure. Yeah.
Of becoming a great basketball player.
And I mean, I looked at, I saw, I didn't have all the numbers, but I think you still have some high school records. So when did you start to really come into your own as a player? And what was kind of the recruiting like in the beginning when you were like, maybe junior, senior year, I'm getting some looks now. So what do you remember about that?
Yeah, so that's an interesting process, right? So I have to attribute everything to my mother because she started putting me in basketball camps. I would say sixth, seventh, eighth grade. I'm going to at least one camp a year, right? And then and then the other part of it was I played at a park on a regular basis against older players. So from sixth grade through ninth grade, I'm historically playing against older guys, getting some basic instruction. What really changed was I had a player on my team that started to get recruited named Ricky Collier. He started to get recruited, and because of that attention, that gave me the opportunity to get exposure. And then back then we had the USA Development League, which would be a version of AAU basketball. You go and try out, right? So we would try out for the county of Riverside. So when I made that team as a sophomore, along with having a player that was getting recruited as a junior, those two events changed the trajectory of the whole recruitment process. And I think things picked up my junior year after a trip to Vegas, playing in the Slam and Jam, Orange County League. Izzy Washington, rest in peace. He set up the Slam and Jam, I believe late 80s going into the 90s, right? So precursor again to a lot of that, what we see today with AAU basketball, sneak shoot company basketball, if you would. So
Sure.
I played on Orange County team with Reggie Miller, Ricky Collier, several other, Greg Matthews, several other players. And we played on the Orange County team. Lewis went to SC, then at Pepperdine. We had a stacked squad. So after going to Vegas with that team, my shoebox got full.
Yeah.
and then at that point, the recruiting picked up significantly from there.
So how did LMU come into the picture as far as like, were they even on your radar? Like, what was the process with them?
Looking back on it, it was more a result of going through this process the first time for most everybody in my immediate circle, right? And then a little lack of guidance. But in the big picture, I think everything worked out the way it should have. So took a couple of trips up to the Pacific Northwest with Pac-10 schools. Didn't dig the weather coming from Southern California.
Sure.
I thought that would just be a mood change. And quite frankly, I wasn't the greatest a student at that time. So the larger classrooms, I had enough sense to realize the larger classrooms would intimidate me and I may get lost there, right? So I wanted to get an education. And also I wanted to be in the Los Angeles area, quite frankly. Wanted to be close enough that my mother could see me play. It'd be convenient, if you would. So was looking at some Southern California schools. I had my mind set on going to Cal State Fullerton. That fell through. I was a free agent. And then LMU came into the picture, Coach Gordon at that time. And I think the lead recruiter at that time also was Larry Lissette. And the thought of a school with a good academic reputation, Los Angeles, I get to play immediately. And the deal closer, quite frankly, was they'll let me continue to wear the number 5. So they didn't have, I started wearing 5 in high school. They didn't have it in the jersey list roster. They checked off those 3 boxes. The 5th box, the 4th box, I get to wear my number through college. I was sold. So, LMU slipped in through the back door. I intended to go to one school that fell through. I was a free agent. LMU came in. And then the following year, and we weren't very good that first year. So under Coach Gordon was consistent with the previous experience, like 11 and 17, something like that. And then he was fired. Jim Lyman came in briefly, if you remember him. He was at the Philadelphia 76ers and the Clippers, I believe. Came in very briefly. Then he got a so I think Jim Lyman came in very briefly. Same summer, got a position with the Sixers, I believe. He left for an NBA team, and then Coach Westhead came in. And then, the rest from there is history.
I wanted to ask you about him. So he was nicknamed, I believe, the guru of the go. He was very innovative with his offensive strategy and is kind of revolutionary, kind of what turned into like Mike D'Antoni and now today's era of offense. But Paul Westhead was way ahead of his time, and you got to play for him. So just playing for him, what changed about your game and in general offense overall, in your opinion, with him?
I think the thing that, if anything, with regards to what changed with my game playing for him is it allowed me to focus on my area of strength, which was rebounding and defense. I still could score the ball. And if it wasn't for having elite scorers come into the program in Hank Adders, Bo Kimbo, a great shooter like Jeff Fryer, I would have easily had a career average in double figures, right? But because of what I did well, I got to the ball well. Ultimately, over time, I progressed to be the guy to initiate the break by getting it out the basket, right? And for me, I got a great high off snatching it off the rim. There's nothing like that in the world for me. Like for some people, it's a dunk. For me, was just, man, that pop, when you snap the ball, the whole gym here, snap that ball and you rip it. That was my thing. So, and then shutting down other bigs. And then playing with Coach Westhead was a test of character that I think those of us that played with him still carry with us. It gives us a layer of mental toughness and emotional toughness because, he put us through it. We were literally track stars with a basketball. We were literally a track team with a basketball. And that was so foreign as far as basketball training at that time that if you didn't buy in 100%, you left. Really. And when he first came, there's a significant number of players that just transferred out because of the way he wanted us to play was so demanding.
Sure.
And then when we added the full court press my senior year, actually, this is interesting. My first 2 years under Coach Westhead, we averaged about 80 points, 85 points, somewhere in there a game. When we added the full court press and the way he had us pressing, where we would jump the ball and then front the guards to have him throw the ball over the top, our scoring average jumped by over 30 points.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yes.
So he was like the college version of Showtime, basically, because I think he did coach for the Lakers for a little bit, right?
Yeah, he won a championship with the Lakers.
Right, exactly. Before Pat Riley, I think.
Right, and I'm not even I don't even think I have this story correct. My bottom line take is what became Coach Westhead's signature style of play is a demanding style of play. And it's really historically hasn't been appropriate for men who get paid the amount of money they get paid and for the number of games they play and the leverage they have to perform at to keep their jobs or to be effective at that level. Right. So it's even Coach Westhead today doesn't recommend coaches try to play this way. And the only success stories I have heard from coaches, because I've talking to coaches throughout my walk in life when they find out my background, et cetera, is the teams that have success is when you get the entire team to buy in. And oftentimes that means you are playing 10 or more players a game. And what Coach Westhead was able to accomplish and why made it so demanding to duplicate is he did it with 8 players typically. So you've really had 8 guys who ran the majority of those minutes, and we're
Right.
going full speed. So it's a demanding style of play. I prefer it. I think from a statistical standpoint, I think the fast-paced game provides on a consistent basis the most variables for you to win a game.
And that's
just
kind
because of
of
the pace.
right. And you kind of got some of your inspiration over time as an innovator like Westhead with what you created, but that's kind of like a foreshadowing there. We'll come back to that. But while we're still at LMU, and I'm happy you're cool with talking about this. There, of course, there was like a 30 for 30 about it, and talking about, you mentioned him already, Hank Gathers. You played with him, and Bo Kimball, guys like that. But Hank collapsed a couple times while he was there. Eventually passed away. But he was the second coming, or at least one of those type of players that was going to be special in the future. You got to play with him a little bit. What do you remember about playing with Hank Gathers?
It's, the things I take away about playing with Hank is everything about Hank off the court, right? He was a dude of, I think, a tremendous character, right? So to put it in perspective, and what I still carry with Hank, from Hank, and I carry it today, is I remember, I believe it is I had to graduate, so it had to be the year going into his junior year. He had posted on his board, that on his wall, big letters, that he's going to lead the nation in rebounding, and he had some other goals, right? And the following season, he became the second player after Xavier McDaniels to lead the NCAA in scoring and rebounding in the same season. Now pause and think about that. Think about all the great bigs that have gone through the NCAA, right? So for him to become the second player to do that, and then for me personally to witness him set that goal and then understand the way he chose to walk his everyday life, to be able to surpass that was a phenomenal thing. And I think everybody that knew Hank sees Hank at that level, right? And I think because he was able to connect with a lot of people at that level, why his passing was so inspirational to his band of brothers and to the community that he gave so much to. So I think he was just a phenomenal dude. And I really do think that he would have went on and been an Adrian Dantley, Mark McGuire, Charles Barkley type of guy, meaning he would have been a 6'7" force from 15 feet in. And you just need to look up the quote Shaquille O'Neal gave. I don't know if you ran across that quote.
No, I haven't seen it.
Shaquille O'Neal. All right, so I'll do my best to recap it. So ultimately what Shaquille says is that Hank is the only guy that he never broke, that Hank never stopped backing down, right? So when LMU played LSU the first time, Shaquille blocks Hank's first 7-8 shots. Okay, the game goes into overtime, right? So Hank comes out and slaps Shaquille on the butt and is like, "You ready for war?" Some quote like that.
Yeah.
You have to look it up, and he's just coming at Shaquille. LSU wins that game in overtime, but I believe Hank finishes with like 44.
Wow.
Points and definitely double-digit rebounds. And that earned the ultimate respect from a young Shaquille O'Neal, and Shaquille has maintained that respect for Hank Gathers and his. Right. So I think those two stories summarize who Hank was and the impact had and still has on people. Because if you was connected to Hank, in particular, if you was connected to Hank through Loyola Marymount basketball, then there's a level of just mental and emotional toughness that you have towards how you approach things.
Right. And yeah, and I was born in 87, so I was too young to even watch him at all. But it would have been cool to see him, even a guy like, hey, to bring up another name, the guy that passed away, but like Len Bias, a talent like that.
Oh my God.
Right. But some of us never got to watch these guys play. So we'll never know.
Right. And I think that's an important work that's maybe a part of what you do, because I think that is so important. The history and understanding the history is part of we'll get to, but as part of my work is also the history, because once people understand the history of basketball prior to the NBA, specifically the history of Black basketball and what it represented, not just the utility value that was taken out the community, but the intrinsic value of having these institutions in the community, right? Then I think the value of this effort that I'm doing with this new platform can resonate with people. It's like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
The game is a platform. The game has always been a platform. So, right. But I think just across the board, I think that is so important. So then, at least when we have the conversation about who's the greatest, it comes from a perspective of understanding each era and truly understanding what made that player great in their era.
Right.
At the bare minimum, right? So,
yeah. No, for sure. And that I wanted to kind of now get to what you ended up doing. But, after you left basketball in the 90s, I was just curious for that whole decade, because I think you were done playing in the early 90s, maybe.
Right.
In the 90s, going into the 2000s, where was your, headspace at, mentality of what you wanted to do next?
Looking back, I would say I was restless and trying to figure it out. I think ultimately, looking back and have the perspective I have on life now, at that point, I thought I had a transition plan. That transition plan was crafted by other people and was a decent transition plan, but I believe that the spark or that thing in me that would gravitate to this whole concept and this effort I put my life behind was already there. It just didn't meet the right idea yet, right? So I think that's created a little bit of restlessness. But it was a beautiful thing because during that time, did a little bit of time in corporate America in doing the sales, spent some time in academia back at my alma mater, Loyola Marymount University. And both of those experiences did help lay a solid professional foundation. How to move and behave and conduct business in a professional environment. That foundation was pretty much laid. Did a short stint immediately after school in Canadian 6'4" and under league. Is the World Basketball League, I think, maybe 3-4 months. That didn't fly well. And at that point, I decided not to pursue the international thing, though a couple of my teammates did. They went on and played international for a few years.
Okay.
Yep, did the corporate thing, and then did the academic thing. And then in 2000, I moved to Arizona. And then by that time, I was working on getting the patent and started the process of really bringing this concept to life.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask you. I saw in 2002 you got the patent, and then for the method of play, the apparatus itself. How did you come up with okay, you're reshaping what basketball looks like. You're almost going back to the roots, because the first time I thought I saw the no backboard basketball, kind of like your background, it's like the old school peach basket back in the day. So it kind of reminds me of getting back to the roots of basketball. How did you ultimately come up with the idea of wanting to change or reshape the game a little bit?
I think again, hindsight's 2020. There was the idea, right, and then there was what to do with the idea.
Right.
And there's years in between those two. The idea and starting the process happened around 1997. Really, three events. One event was I was doing some volunteer work at a youth camp that was in a warehouse that was converted for volleyball, youth volleyball. And the owner had put these netball hoops extending off the wall up. And I coordinate the kids playing on them. And it was a natural thing for them. Never asked, where's the backboard, coach? Coach, where's the backboard? Question was never asked. I started shooting on these hoops, and the hoops were smaller as well. Okay, so our U hoops are 16 inches in diameter. I believe these were 15 inches in diameter, netball hoops. So after some time of having the kids play and me shooting, I was a still active player. I went and played traditional basketball, if you would, and the impact was immediate, significant and immediate. Again, I was career 50% from the floor in college, 49, 50%, 17 foot in, probably record, I need to double check this, but I believe less than 5 total 3-point attempts in my entire college career.
Yeah.
Okay. I was knocking them down easy. It was just easy. So the light went off, and then I read Bill Gates' book, The Road Ahead, and he was talking about this future with the internet. And I was like, I want to do something with that. And then I had another incident where the whole idea of creating a whole new space, a whole new industry around a new game started to live. So that was around 97, 2002, had an issue, a patent apparatus, method of play, did some proof of concepts. 2007, 11, that went 2004 to 2007, 2007, 2011. Was trying to pitch a television show. I was copycatting.
Okay.
That was unsuccessful. So at that time, I took a step back, and I like to call it my Noah period, my Noah moment, where I had to wait for the technology to be in the earth and at a level of market penetration, user adoption, that what I wrote down in 2000, a network of backboard basketball league facilities all connected to a single internet portal, delivering that content directly to the end user, bypassing network and cable, right? Probably the last 5 years, someone to be able to do what we're doing was emerging. And every year from that point on becomes easier and easier to do. So over that period of time between 2007 until the pandemic, I've come to understand more of, okay, I have this concept, I have this game. How do you turn the game into a business? Okay, and then what would be the purpose of that business? And then with modern technology, laws and policies, you really now have the opportunity to take something completely new and build a completely new business model around it that can have a better relationship with all the members of that community, be it if they watch the sport, create opportunities for them to participate in the sport, et cetera.
When I watched the YouTube videos and just videos and you guys hear and talk about it, like obviously a ton of questions come up when you see this game, right? Because it's just like,
absolutely,
it's interesting though. I want to give you a few things that stuck out to me, and I'll let you kind of respond to those. First of all, there's because of the depth perception, there's no backboard. You're going to get some air balls and some disappointing misses, I guess, early on. That's what I saw. The shot selection got better because you're taking better shots because it's tougher to make with the smaller rim and everything else. And also what I really liked is more people are attacking the basket because of that. So we're getting old school, more contact, more thought out play. So that's a couple of things I noticed. Any responses to those things?
That tells me you have a good basketball IQ,
Thank you.
and you know how to watch sports.
Yes.
So all of that is accurate. That is the natural progression, and the result from that progression, the feedback the players are given is it creates better ball movement, creates better player movement, which causes the IQ to go up. Because when the ball's moving more and you have to move more to be able to get the ball, and then you have to work to position yourself. Now you're going to work harder to position yourself so you have that extra second to be able to get your feet, square your shoulders. You know you're going to take a good shot. Because I'm sure the other thing you observe is when the shooting percentage started to go up, you notice they were taking very sure shots.
Yes. Getting closer to the rim because it is smaller, right? So you have to miss small, aim small, miss small type of thing. But I think that's what your point was about why it makes you a better shooter is because you have to be so much more accurate while you're shooting on this rim.
Correct. And that's a reprogramming. That's a reprogram because every basketball player would agree that when they are more intentful, they can shoot the ball 5 to 10% better than they normally do.
Right.
All hoopers that shoot jump shots and have been shooting threes know that. So it's the conditioning of the mind to do it a certain way. So what makes this the ultimate basketball training platform is once the foundation is set, once you have your foundation, you understand your fundamentals so you can do some self-correcting, right? All you have to do is play this game and you get better. Your whole game improves. Because of the pace, your ball handling is going to improve. Because of the difficulty of the smaller rim, your focus is going to improve. And because of the demand to take good shots, because no one wants to airball more than a couple of times.
Right.
That ball is going to be moving and you're going to be moving and you're going to learn how to do all of that.
Right.
Now, that's what
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's what I'm excited about bringing to the market, this alternative platform that can take serious hoopers who want to take the game to the next level, and simply by coming and of course, you do some training on the hoops, and we'll have shooting cages where you just shoot on the hoops. And you got a doctor dish or shoot machine kicking it back to you, and then we do the training. But just come out and playing as well would be just as effective as all of that.
What I like is that it's not just a training apparatus. You actually want to build a no backboard basketball league with actual games being played regularly on this hoop. Not just for shooting training. So did you think about, like, obviously you probably had a big vision, but were you thinking more, this is a great training apparatus, or this is going to be a league that people want to play on?
A step further than a league people want to play on, an entire new market that will provide a platform for leagues and apparel and equipment, platform for creators and collaboration to take place in this whole new space. So the vision at the moment is this: 100 no backboard basketball league facilities that provide an immersive experience playing this, all connected to a single portal in the metaverse, cyberspace, someplace out there, where that now experience creates an economy where those that participate within it are able to share in the distribution of wealth, right? So, and that language may sound a little funny right now, but it's very accurate when you think about what blockchain enables, what the internet enables, what the metaverse is going to enable, and really allowing ourselves to reimagine what's possible. Right. So just fundamentally, if you take all the technology out, just a network of 100 facilities around the country that play this specific sport will build its own niche space.
That's pretty awesome,
Right.
man. If people can buy into this and want to be a part of it. Now, do you find people wanting to obviously play both? You know, the feedback of, yeah, I want to be a part of the NBBL, but, you know, it's also going to get me better for regular basketball as well. What kind of feedback do you hear from the guys that have been playing with you?
I think that's the rub. What we're going to see is a facility is going to go up, and you're going to have your competitive basketball guys supplementing their basketball training in this environment. So they're going to come into this environment, and it's going to be part of their lifestyle. But their primary focus is going to be leveraging it to enhance themselves as a basketball player. And then 20% of the time, that particular audience will leverage it recreationally, open runs, and fun. However,
Sure.
let's be mindful that there's a significant size recreational space, particularly for adults. You're 18 and over, recreational space is huge. So for that audience, it provides them an alternative workout method where you can do boot camps and high level open runs, just come get a good sweat, but also you're able to compete in competitive no backboard basketball recreational leagues at the TBT level or at the and one mixtape tour level, where you have seasoned, highly skilled basketball players who have chosen another walk of life for their primary source of income, but they compete 2 or 3 times a week, and they've adapted and included this in their regimen. And the market is large enough to 100 facilities throughout the country would be absorbed up very quickly.
I think a lot of exactly. There's a market for it. Just like, I don't know if you've noticed, well, I'm sure you have, but like, you know, pickleball has gotten huge in this country. It's not people playing tennis as much anymore, right? They're, you know, you don't have to move
Right.
as much. It's a different style, but still the same idea of tennis, but you can play pickleball now. So it's just, and to me, it's like putting in golf. You're putting on a smaller hole to make you better when you putt on the regular course. So there is value in what you're doing training wise and the fun playing wise of it. So I think you got it both knocked out with this.
Hey, I appreciate that, Brett. And on a bigger scale, if you look across major sports around the world, many of them have undergone some type of adjustment to the way they play the game to make it more current and modern, if you would.
Yeah.
Right. So rugby, I believe it's rugby. They have a 7-on-7 version. You know, cricket, which is known for these really long, multiple day games, have created a very small, concise. And even the sport that's often confused with the no backboard basketball league, netball, has made some changes to their rules to make it, in an attempt to make it more modern, fast paced, without sacrifice the integrity of what the game originally was set forth to play.
Speaking of rule changes, I'm glad you brought that up because I think you made some rule changes as well. And I want to talk about the basketball you use in a second, but what rule changes did you make to no backboard basketball that are different than the traditional game?
Great question. The whole objective is to provide something that would be the closest thing to the modern interpretation of the original game, right? So the original game of basketball didn't have timeouts. And the game was meant to have a flow similar to soccer, rugby, hockey, lacrosse. Naismith was a rugby and lacrosse player himself. I think he played hockey as well. So he was very familiar with those field sports. And the timeout didn't become a part of the traditional rule set until the NBA television. So the first television contract introduced the timeout. Go figure. So to the rules, we don't have any timeouts. Our out of bounds rule is similar to soccer, similar to soccer. So it's the placement of the ball, not the player. So the player literally could be completely off the court. As long as the ball doesn't bounce off the court, it's still live.
Oh, wow. Okay. So your whole thing is less stoppages and just keep the game moving, right? No running clock, all that?
We keep it running, 17-second shot clock. We play on a court that's comparable to a middle school size court. So adults, so that's about 70 to 75 feet. by 50. Adults play 3-on-3 full court. Youth play 4-on-4. You don't take the ball out, so when it goes through the net, it's live.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And substitutions are on the fly like hockey.
Okay.
And we changed some demarcations to the court as well. So while we're currently playing on traditional courts, when we get into our first facility, we will have our traditional court, which has a 3-point key. The 3-point key, the top of the 3-point key from the baseline falls short of the free throw line, which is still 15 feet from the rim, but the top of our key falls short of the free throw line by approximately 3 feet, and it's 20 feet wide.
Okay.
Anything scored in there is worth 3 points. So you see why guys are going to the rim so hard, because they get 3 for scoring around the basket. Now, for the big bigs that could just use their body and bang, you can goaltend.
You can
In the
goaltend.
3-point key. In the 3-point key, yes. Yes. So there's going to be a little banging going on with the big boys around the basket.
Yeah. So you're incentivizing people to go to the basket also by making it worth 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's one of the feedback that many of the players have given me that they enjoy, is that the way the rules unfold and the way the scoring is structured, you are allowing all the skill sets to coexist at the same time, as opposed with the way traditional basketball has been going. Certain skill sets, it's what's the flavor of the decade, right?
Well, it's all deep. It's all deep threes now, right? There's way less contact in the NBA.
Yeah. That's the flavor of the decade.
Yeah.
Right. That's the flavor of the decade. Right. So, but with that, there's a whole skill set that goes out the window that's not as valued as it was 20 years ago, if you would.
I think you will get a bunch of people. Probably, I'm old school too, even though there's nothing against what Steph Curry does. It's just he's one of the few that can really do it. But I think you're going to get a generation of people that appreciate what you're doing, because it reminds them of what the 80s and 90s of the NBA was, or college was.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree with that. And that goes back to, there's a lane for everybody. There's a lane for everybody.
Yeah.
There's space for everybody in the game to exploit their skill set and their strengths, if you will.
Yes.
So that's what's exciting. That's what's really exciting.
No, that's great. And I met, actually, on the same call you and I were on a few weeks ago on our LinkedIn group, I met John Hines, who created the Rain Basketball, which you've adopted into your league. So tell us about what the thought was. I think it has more seams on it. What was the thought of, now you got your own rules in league, we need to have our own basketball too that fits this as well?
Well, the vision always included an alternative ball. Always included an alternative ball that wasn't a traditional basketball. As I pivoted in the beginning of 2021 and start moving in this direction, me and John connected via LinkedIn about a few of his balls, really liked the balls. The initial feedback from the guys that used the ball was very, very positive. And being a kindred spirit in that, I understand some of the challenges that he has faced and will face with introducing a new style of basketball to the market.
Right.
I just embraced the whole thing. Right. So I always wanted an alternative ball. It's an awesome ball. Gives you more control, both in handling, shooting, passing. And because of the pace we play with, we need a ball that the players really feel comfortable with and controlling it. And because it has so many seams, no matter where you catch the ball, your finger's going to have a grip. So even for players that have a slightly smaller hand, though it's still official size ball, because there's so many additional seams, you always feel like you have a good grip and control of the ball. And we feel that's important just from a technical standpoint, if you would, to help players really adapt and play our sport.
Yeah, because I'm obviously the rim's smaller, so you want to promote a little more accuracy with more seams, I think. And also, is it the same size ball as a normal ball?
Yes.
Okay. So just the rim's getting smaller. You just have to be better. You just have to shoot better.
It's got to shoot the ball better.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that, man. You're promoting better shooting habits, but you're also incentivizing better shots within that, which I like.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is going to be a very beautiful style of play. That's going to be reminiscent of for people who enjoy watching the field sports. Right? There's a beauty at times you see when you watch soccer, just because of the pace, the way they're sharing the ball. And they often share the ball in ways like, man, the only way that guy knew it is these guys are teammates, because that pass, how did he know he's going to cut and pass there? Right. So when you're able to create that free flow and that creativity meets skill, at that moment to create a moment, that's exciting. And I believe the No Backboard Basketball League will provide those experiences. And then we want to be able to capture those experiences and share those experiences with the world, and then help those that create those experiences, because they're playing the sport, to be able to enjoy the rewards of their fruit of participation, if you would.
Sure. Last couple questions. When you talk to the younger generation, teenagers, maybe guys in their 20s, what kind of feedback have you heard from the young kids about this style of basketball?
They love it. I had the fortune to coach high school basketball for a few years, and I would set up netball hoops and just have the kids play on the netball hoops, and they love it. They love the challenge, and that's I think that's one of the biggest takeaways and more of understanding is you're putting a challenge in front of competitive athletes. The type of challenge that you golfers face when they play golf, right? Simply the U hoops, U and the hoop, no backboard. Just that simple challenge touches the right person. Again, there's 2.3 billion basketball fans in the world. 31 million Americans say basketball is their favorite. Their favorite. As we said earlier, most baseball and football players dabble in basketball in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Particularly in the off season, right? So in the United States alone, to say there's 50, 75 million basketball fans at some spectrum is a safe bet out of 325 million people in the country. That's a safe bet, right? So when you just look at the scale, even at to execute 100 facilities, we don't need that large of an audience to create a MVP, a value add to the marketplace at scale that those that participate are able to benefit from it from an economic standpoint and enjoy the obvious rewards of participating in this activity, right? So from that standpoint, that's what's exciting, because it's really going to touch certain people the right way. And when it touches those certain people, it's going to be fun for them to join the journey.
Right. Now, I was just curious, do you sell the U-hoops or the apparatuses by themselves, or is it's only for the league style?
We will be selling them right now for our growth plan, where we want to get to. It's let's get into a space that's our space, a facility. And then from that facility, let's start the development and the next phase of development, right? So, because I think that's the key thing. The key thing in this season is really building awareness that this is here, and it's here and it's growing and it's coming. And the thinking is through building awareness, through just sharing people's interaction and experience playing the game. Really keep it that simple. Put the game front and center, create opportunity for people to play the game, share their experience playing the game. Maybe you package a little bit, but build that audience, that awareness. And then from there, I think the community would direct where the demand is for us to turn our attention to next, right? But I think that's the plan I'm working through right now, is getting us into the facility, building the awareness through continue to create opportunities for people to interact with the game, the sport, understand the sport, the game, and understand the opportunity we're looking to put communities throughout the country. And then from there, once that's laid, then from there we can branch off and look into trying to manufacture 100,000 hoops.
You know what? That could be something, because you look at some of these guys, especially the NBA guys, and they have their basketball trainers that they're always doing drills with. You see it on social media all the time. Yeah. So maybe down the road, you get one of these high-level trainers that works with these big-time NBA guys, and they're shooting on a U-hoop like, damn, what is that? Why is he using that? So I think maybe eventually
right,
you guys
absolutely. I agree with you 100%. You're spot on, Brett. I agree with you.
So big stuff we should look for this year, and maybe, I know you got a long-term plan, but do you have, where the first facility you want it to be? Maybe the Phoenix area because you're there, but what are we looking for in 2022 for you guys?
2022, what we're looking forward to is getting into our first facility and establishing our social club, which will be our support community, if you would, and establishing an NFT to go with that community. So what that looks like at this time is developing what you call an art utility NFT, which those people that come and join us on this journey, their utility with the NFT is to get access to certain content that isn't available to the general public, but also at each milestone as we grow out the full business plan and we're executing on the full business plan, and that network of facilities is being built out, that they're able to participate in the royalties, if you would, from the success and the growth of the business. And also, more importantly, help us refine the sport, right? So we're at the point in 2022. So we have the facility, we have building out our social club, which is that NFT project, and then also our beta league. So we want to do a series of 4 to 5 beta leagues, because everything I shared with you is in my mind. And the videos that you watched online was everybody's first time, including the officials, all of those videos.
Right.
What I would like to do is crowdsource the refinement of the game. Right. So members of the social club have access to the content from these 4 or 5 beta leagues we put on over the course of 2022. We create a feedback loop where they're now helping us refine the whole gameplay to the brand look and feel. So then when we go and we launch public, we launch our facility, launch an IPTV channel, and we're really now pushing out art NFTs, merchandise, etc., that this community helps us push it out. And then as we hopefully trigger some network effects and some exponential growth, now that community that helped us in 2022, they are the group of people that get to enjoy the growth of it. So, I would say right now I want to create our version of Board 8 Yacht Club type of flow, and which our environment, our community support is built around fulfilling this vision of putting these 100 facilities out. And then this is the community that gets to get first shot at every step of the way. Hey, we source it through the community before we go to the next level. So we're working through that piece right there. But in a nutshell, we're still in development. We want to crowdsource the refinement of it and build a community before we take it, before we launch it. And then when we launch it, we definitely want to have a holistic strategy that incorporates both in the real world, the IRL, as well as NFT, a blockchain, a metaverse roadmap, if you would, moving forward.
Gotcha. Okay. So last thing, I know you got lots of, social media channels and websites. So where can everybody find all of your stuff across the platforms?
That's what's up. I appreciate that. So on the LinkedIn side, on the business side, you have Mark T. Armstrong, TEE, so Mark T. Armstrong. Across Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. I'm not very active on Twitter right now. At No Backboards with an S. At No Backboards with an S.
Okay.
And that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And then the website is nobackboard.com. And then if you want to look into the social club and what we're building out there, which is about to get flipped into an NFT project, that would be Patreon /No Backboards.
Gotcha. So yeah, we'll have to send everybody over there. Really cool stuff, man. I appreciate you being on with me today. I wish you the best of luck with No Backboards, and you're creating something that hopefully will blow up for you this year and beyond. So thank you for coming on.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Brett.
A big thank you to Mark T. Armstrong and the No Backboard Basketball League. If that didn't intrigue you, I don't know what will. It's pretty interesting. You'll have to see it for yourself. Go check out the YouTube page. Check out some videos online, social media, No Backboards or No Backboard, and hit up his social channels just to check it out. I think he's got something. He might have something there. So it will be interesting to see if he can really expand this whole league and the concept. And I really enjoyed that interview. Hope you guys did as well. So my thanks to Mark for that and the No Backboard Basketball League. And as always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my TikTok page at Too Tall Sports Podcast. My YouTube channel, same thing, Too Tall Sports Podcast. Every Thursday morning at 5 a.m. Pacific time, we release episodes. And I got one every Thursday, like I mentioned. So check those episodes out. Like, share, comment, write a review. Anything to help engage and interact with the show. I'd really appreciate that. Also on Apple and Spotify, same thing. 5-star rating if you haven't done so already. You have to scroll down a little bit. Might take you a little bit of effort, but if you're already there listening, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the 5 stars and leave a review or a comment or something like that. So it would help out the show. So yeah, type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. You'll find me everywhere, and please engage and comment and interact with my stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for listening as always, and I'll see you next week for another great episode. Have a good one.